Um, Thank you for being here today. I'm Linda Burney, the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians. I have had reports this morning through phone conversations and also text messages from people in Western Sydney, so I'll start it again. I've had phone conversations and texts this morning from people in Western and far Western New South Wales. We know that the case numbers have increased out there overnight, particularly in places like Dubbo and in places like Wilcannia. What we're seeing out there and what I am hearing is a real worry around food security, that food is being distributed and gotten to people that live in the West and the Central West. We're also seeing, and what I've been told this morning, is still a lack of coordination on the ground. People out there, officials, have to work hand in glove with the local Aboriginal community, in particular Aboriginal leaders. They should be part of the decision-making processes. They should be able to then get the messages out to the community. I spoke to someone from Wilcannia. People are frightened and people are confused. This is due to, in my view, a lack of coordination. We are still not seeing any localised data. How can you make decisions that are sensible for those communities unless you have localised data? And we are also seeing across the northwest and the west a lack of vaccines, but particularly a lag time in the processing of testing cases, up to 4 days, 6 days. Now this is not appropriate in communities that are vulnerable. I have said all along, there has to be a national plan. The rollout can't be whack-a-mole. People are sitting ducks out in those communities. The coordination, a national plan, localised data is what's required clearly. Henry, that was my preamble.
Thank you, that was great. Can I ask you just a couple of questions? I won't take much of your time.
No, you're right.
I'm curious about what you said about food security. Can you elaborate on that? Is it because people are staying in their homes, they can't get out? And how serious is it?
Well, we've heard about 2 fines being perpetrated in the case of 2 Aboriginal women who had proved negative and went out to get food for their families. I understand the importance of COVID rules, but they need to be applied in those communities sensibly. It's not like you can go to the butcher, you can go to the baker, the way in which we do in the city. There are small IGAs if you are lucky. The big communities where people normally go to get food, they are frightened to travel. So food security is so important. There is one person whom I'm aware of is travelling an hour there and back to pick up food for second bite to make sure that people are fed in her community. Vaccine rollouts, of course, are important. Testing is important. But making life tolerable is also important. The last thing we want to see are people moving between communities. This is to be discouraged, but unless there is food security, it is difficult to see how it can happen.
Linda, you talked about the lack of coordination in these communities, in these parts of New South Wales. Where is it breaking down? What are some of the things that could be immediately introduced to make it easier for people in these communities?
For the people in those communities, be it Dubbo, be it Wilcannia, be it Burke, be it Walgett. There is an importance in terms of Aboriginal, I'll say that again, there has to be local Aboriginal people involved in the decisions about that community. They will know, and the messages of those decisions have to be communicated clearly. There seems to be a breakdown between the messages and those messages getting to people in an understandable way. These are small communities. They are very highly Aboriginal populated. Getting the message out should not be difficult, be it by way of a community meeting, be it door to door. But those messages are crucial to people staying safe, people being careful, and of course on top of that you have unbelievable overcrowding. So there has to be facilities for people to be able to isolate. It is almost impossible to social distance if a home is 3 bedrooms and there are 12 people living in it.
Linda, thank you. That's
Thanks,
really
Henry.
interesting. Sorry we
Okay.
couldn't get somebody there.
That's cool.